Today we're going to wrap together everything we've been learning about in science. So what have we been learning about in science? Plants, right. But more specifically, what about plants? Their life cycle, good job. And what is a life cycle? A life cycle is the stages something living goes through. So let's review what a plant life cycle is. We start with the seed. We bury it and plant it. It turns into a sprout, a seedling, and then finally a plant. What are the things a plant needs to go through this life cycle? They need sunlight for energy, water, air, and soil. So today we're going to dig a little bit deeper. We're going to take our knowledge of what plants need and their life cycle, and we're going to read a book. We are reading The Tiny Seed by Eric Carle. It is autumn. A strong wind is blowing. It blows flower seeds high in the air and carries them far across the land. One of the seeds is tiny, smaller than any of the others. Will it be able to keep up with the others? Where are they going? One of the seeds flies higher than the others. Up, up it goes. It flies too high, and the sun's hot rays burn it up. But the tiny seed sails on with the others. Another seed lands on a tall and icy mountain. The ice never melts, and the seed cannot grow. The rest of the seeds fly on, but the tiny seed does not go as fast as the others. So why might the seed that landed on the mountain not be able to grow? There might be sunlight and air, but there's no soil. It only reaches the snow, and it can't plant. Now they fly over the ocean. One seed falls into the water and drowns. The others sail on with the wind, but the tiny seed does not go as high as the others. Now we're thinking lots of water, but there's no air in the ocean. The seed can't get air, and there's no soil. One seed drifts down into the desert. It is hot and dry, and the seed cannot grow. Now the tiny seed is flying very low, but the wind pushes it on with the others. What's in a desert that prevents the seed from growing? The dryness. There's no water. Finally, the wind stops and the seed falls gently down to the ground. A bird comes by and eats one seed. The tiny seed is not eaten. It is so small that the bird does not see it. Now it is winter. After their long trip, the seeds settle down. They look just as if they are going to sleep. Snow falls and covers them like a soft white blanket. A hungry mouse that also lives in the ground eats a seed for his lunch. But the tiny seed lies very still, and the mouse does not see it. So now it's bedded into the soil, into the earth, and there's snow on top of it, which might slowly melt and turn into water. And now it's spring. After a few months, the snow has melted. It's really spring. Birds fly by, the sun shines, rain falls. The seed grows so round and full they start to burst open. Now they are not seeds anymore. They are plants. First they send roots down into the earth. Then their little stems and leaves begin to grow up toward the sun and air. There's another plant that grows much faster than the new plants. It is a big fat weed, and it takes all the sunlight and rain away from one of the small new plants, and that plant dies. The tiny seed hasn't begun to grow yet. It will be too late. Hurry! But finally, it too starts to grow. So we can really see here that we have the soil, the air, the rainwater, and the sun. Everything a plant needs to grow. The warm weather also brings the children out to play. They too have been waiting for the sun in spring. One child doesn't see the plants as he runs along and oh, he breaks one. Now it cannot grow anymore. Why can the broken plant not grow anymore? It needs the stem. The stem is what gets the water and carries it up into the plant. It's what feeds it. The tiny plant that grew from the tiny seed is growing fast, but its neighbor grows even faster. Before the tiny plant has 3 leaves, the other plant has 7. And look, a bud, and now a flower. But what is happening? First there are footsteps, then a shadow looms over them. Then a hand reaches down and breaks off the flower. A boy has picked the flower to give a friend. It is summer. Now the tiny plant from the tiny seed is all alone. It grows on and on. It doesn't stop. The sun shines on and the rain waters it. It has many leaves and it grows taller and taller. It is taller than people. It is taller than trees. It is taller than houses. And now a flower grows on it. People come from far and near to look at the flower. It is the tallest flower they have ever seen. A giant flower! All summer long, birds and bees and butterflies come visiting. They have never seen such a big and beautiful flower. Now it is autumn again. The days grow shorter, the nights grow cooler, and the wind carries yellow and red leaves past the flower. Some petals drop from the giant flower, and they sail along with the bright leaves over the land and down to the ground. The wind blows harder. The flower has lost almost all of its petals. It sways and bends from the wind, but the wind grows stronger and shakes the flower. Once more the wind shakes the flower, and this time the seed pod opens. Out come many tiny seeds as they travel far away in the wind. So what's going to happen? We've completed the life cycle. We started with the seed. It finally found a spot to bury itself, and now it grew with the water and the sunlight and the air and the soil, and now it is going to start all over. It's going to be carried away with the wind. So our job today is to be authors and illustrators. The author writes the book. The illustrator draws the pictures. So what we are going to do today is have a seed adventure. Let's all point and read our directions together. Think of how seeds travel. What kind of adventure do you think seeds could have? Using A Tiny Seed by Eric Carle as a basis, use the brainstorm to write a story about an adventure a seed could have as it travels. So this seed was carried away by the wind. It went over an ocean, it went towards the sun, it went over the mountains, it was almost eaten by a bird. There are different ways seeds travel. Let's say you're walking in a field and one gets stuck on the bottom of your shoe or your pant, and then you walk somewhere else. Now it has traveled from one place to another. I want you guys to think of what type of seed you would be. A sunflower seed, a pumpkin seed, an avocado seed. How would you travel? Are you being blown away in the wind? Is a bird taking you up to its nest to feed a baby and then you get dropped? Just different ways a seed can travel. And what would you see? Are you going over a mountain? Are you going over the ocean? Are you traveling in a car and you get to have the adventure of what the family's doing? Just different things that you could see and where you would go. When you're done with the brainstorming sheet, you're going to turn the page and actually write your adventure. Now, what are some things we need when we write? We need a beginning, a middle, and an end. First, then, next, last. These are words we could use to start our sentences. We start with capitals. We end with punctuation. When we're done, We read it out loud or in our whisper voice to make sure it makes sense, because sometimes you'll get to writing, you'll have a really good idea and you're jotting it down and you might skip a word or leave something out or add something, and that's fine. That's why we start with the sloppy copy. We go back through and make corrections, and then we make a final draft. So after we have our brainstorm sheet done, we will go over it, make sure it makes sense, and then we will go to our final draft. Now we are third graders, so our sentences need to have at least 5 to 7 words, and we need to have at least 7 to 10 sentences.